Waiting for we're live. Good morning, everyone. September 10th. Take the time to subscribe to Rolland Market Mashup, our YouTube channel. That's where all these get posted every day. We're on here every single weekday morning at 8:30 Eastern time. And yeah, let's dive into it. Yesterday was a great rally. I don't know how convincing of a rally it is. I don't think we're necessarily out of correct mode yet, but yesterday was a big time rally. And DraftKings was one of the leaders of that rally. I saw this morning Penn got an upgrade. It just seems like those stocks go back and forth with which one gets the limelight and the spot of attention. But right now, Penn is at all-time highs. It got as high as 62.50, I think, this morning, and now it's bouncing around. And
upgrade.
It got an upgrade to 80, right?
Yeah.
And DraftKings right now is at 41.50. So both those stocks, like usual, are going to be interesting stocks to follow today. And
I kind of think today's the day you want to sell those at some point because the NFL starts tonight. It's that lead up.
Oh, yeah, that's tonight. So you got to – I love where your head's at with DraftKings just as a swing trade.
Yeah, I think both of them because they've all got it. They got overexcited based on that.
Mm-hmm.
Another talk about overexcitement that has their earnings tonight is Peloton. And obviously, I'm sure they're doing great as a company, but this stock has had quite the run up. I'm going to bring them up here right now. And
what's their RSI looking like?
It's high. It's basically at 80. And from my experience, here's my thing. Here's what I'm starting to realize, and I'm sure every so often this doesn't end up being the case, but it does seem like anytime you have one analyst after the next upgrading a stock leading into earnings, the stock always sells off after the earnings. I don't know if it's a trick they play to suck in the retail money, but you look at Peloton, they didn't really participate in this recent correction. They continue to get upgrades. They've been crushing, and now they have their earnings tonight. I think it's run up too much. I think there's a lot of people that got caught in this trap, and I'm trying to decide if I want to maybe try and short this thing going into close. Probably not, because it's just a gamble, just like buying it going into close. But this will be an interesting stock to follow, not only today, but just over the next few days.
I mean, I'll be jumping on it on a pullback. I love Peloton, not here, but you guys know I was big on that stock. I had an option play on them pre-pandemic.
Yeah, and let me correct myself here, because I guess they did actually participate in the pullback to an extent. I mean, they got as low as 72, 82, which wasn't as low as some of the other stocks, but then, they shot up like a rocket on Tuesday and haven't really looked back, and now they're over $90. So, Mike, you like Peloton?
I love Peloton long term. I think this has just expedited their whole game plan, and you guys know where my head's at with the future of healthcare and fitness. That's why I think they have a lot of room to run in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's I agree with what everyone's saying here, but it's impossible to know what it's going to look like right after the earnings, because you just don't know what the company's going to say. They may tone it down. They may go after, tremendous goals for the next quarter. If you think back to Apple, most analysts were upgrading Apple into the earnings. There were very few downgrades, and that stock exploded up. Mm-hmm. So you just don't know. It is a gamble, like you said.
Yeah, so then moving on from that, Dad, you got anything specific you're looking at today? I know the job.
No, I made sales this morning in Donkey Kong, DKNG. We talked about the move it's at. My next level, I think 42.5 is doable. That was kind of where the Michael Jordan news got excited, around there. So
that's when I got out of it. I'm still waiting to get back in Penn too. Like, I love both stocks. I just have had a hard time pulling the trigger until I even saw someone come out yesterday saying they recommend the NFL season is paused. So I'm still.
Well, look, anything's possible going forward with whether they pause sports or
Yeah,
not.
that's why if that does happen, imagine what happens to DraftKings on that kind of news. I don't like owning gaming with this until we're actually back. Like
the run up has been so great in these stocks that I think you have to get down to tag ends.
Well, that's why I'm on the sidelines. Like, I don't want to be greedy here. I made money on both. I got out after being down huge on both earlier in the pandemic. So I figure, all right, there's going to be them at some point coming back to life. Even Penn upgraded to 80. That's awesome. When? For 2022, maybe?
Yeah.
Like, this thing is just ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, as far as this market goes right now, though, it's really impossible to call whether we're going to continue up and away right away, or
I don't think so. I think this is a good opportunity to sell off tech again today.
Yeah, they may not. But the stocks that I'm looking at now, I'm looking back at Dow Chemical, DOW, which is really a solid chart. And it's had a big move, but I think it could make new highs in the next few weeks. Another one I'm looking at is
Wait, what was the symbol on that?
DOW.
I got it right here, Mike.
Yeah, see, it's hard pressed imagining me having that in my portfolio.
No, I mean, it's not going to be a high flyer, but you notice how it acted in the fall of the market. It hardly moved at all. I like the names that held up really well in the last week. Another one I'm looking at is BHP, which is Broken Hill out of Australia.
Now we're talking. That sounds good.
Well, this company has been around for decades, and they're a resource company. And it's a good way to play the inflation scenario, the weak dollar, oil again, and gold. They've got it all. They got and copper is their main commodity, which has been on fire. So this stock's had a big move, but it's a solid stock to have in a portfolio. It's got a nice yield if you like a yield.
Hopefully it'll be better than BP. Just add an H in there and you're golden.
Yeah, all the BP stocks, right? But these are conservative plays and definitely long term. As far as action goes, Danny mentioned VUZI again yesterday, VUZI. This stock keeps coming up with headlines, one after another.
I own a lot of VUZI.
Yeah,
why don't you? Enjoyed when I got out of that a few months back when you got me into it and lost money, and now I'm expecting this thing to go up.
Well, if you kind of summarize what this company does, I know you told me on the phone, but just for our viewers.
Well, as far as the big story is, they have these glasses that surgeons wear that help with surgery, and they're using them in different places around the world. And they're really state-of-the-art, smart glasses that help with surgeries. And they have a lot of other products involving eyeglasses, but
seems like they've flown under the radar. I haven't heard anyone bring these guys up.
Well, they seem to be coming up with some type of positive story every third day, and the stock runs up and then runs into a wall.
So we'll see this on Robinhood soon. This reminds me of Plug from like a year ago.
They stopped at showing their data. So you don't get a Robinhood run-ups anymore.
Yeah.
I wonder what that's. That's interesting.
Yeah,
they had to, and it became a conflict of interest.
This stock has had like a day or two of really big volume, and then it goes back down to like 1 million to 2 million shares rather than 20 million. So there's a lot of people kind of caught in the stock that bought it between this level and 510.
Mm-hmm.
So you got a lot of stock to go through before this thing can get going. But pre-market, this thing traded over 450 already today.
Did it really?
Yeah, I think it's 444 now.
Now we're talking. I went ham on that at 390 the other day. So,
well, anyway, it's something to keep an eye on for the speculative, and it's kind of away from the mainstream. and doesn't quite act like the other NASDAQ stocks.
And Dad, let's talk rocket a little, because I know we've been following this. This thing's kind of fallen off a rocket ship, but maybe is starting to climb back up. What are your current thoughts on this stock? It's not much of a chart. Public company.
I think you got a lot of people caught in it right now, and they're waiting for higher levels. You want to see it really stay above 24 to give it some momentum. It needs momentum to really get going. I think it's a big retail name, and they'll go back into this if they start making money and all the other crap they're in. I mean, the company's solid. I think Kramer mentioned it last night that he thought it was okay down here.
Yeah, I think he had him on the show. I got to listen back to his show last night. I didn't get a chance to watch it. I'm curious what he did say. And then I think it's important to bring up yesterday. I don't know what's going to happen with this, but TikTok is trying to avoid selling the business. So I don't know what that's going to look like and if certain names are going to get impacted by that news. When it got announced yesterday, it was 30 minutes before it closed. And there was a small little retracement in some of the names that have been trending up on the TikTok news, like Snapchat. And I mean small, nothing crazy, but that's going to be something to look at. I know, like yesterday, I started to kind of think to myself, is Snapchat buying TikTok? And there's some people that know it behind the scenes, and that's why the stock's been running up more than the names like Twitter and some of these other names, and on high volume. But then, I don't know, that might just be people trying to play the what if TikTok gets banned trade. And then
I think it's
all speculation.
Yeah, I was going to say anything's possible, and to try to get in front of that, you're probably not going to do well. I mean, you just got to wait for the announcement and then play what you see.
I could see TikTok also just being banned in the U.S. fully, and them just cutting it.
And that's a big deal for Facebook, I guess. All right.
Of course it is.
It's a big deal for Snapchat, Facebook, all the social media.
I could see that being more likely than one of these companies actually buying them. I think when you really look at it internally, it's so complicated to actually make that happen with the data. The breakup of that is just, it's almost impossible.
You're probably right.
That's why they only went to companies like Microsoft.
I know, and they have probably realized that's just not a deal that even makes sense. So that I think we're better off playing that notion where those companies will run up off TikTok not being a threat.
Yeah.
Being a rollout.
As far as the high flyers go, I mean, you got to start with Tesla. This thing was looking like dog crap yesterday. And it, by the end of the day, it was up big, and it's up big again today. And
I made money shorting Tesla yesterday. I feel like I got to get a T-shirt.
Yeah, you really should get a T-shirt for making money on the short side.
I made money
almost back to 400, and I think, as it ticks higher, it just brings in more buyers who just love Tesla. So I would not be shorting the stock in the I would call this no man's land.
It's got such a wide range in the day. It's crazy. And you could almost, the trade I've been doing is not fully, but you could almost watch NEO and it almost reacts to the way Tesla stock reacts about 25 minutes after. So if Tesla breaks out to all-time highs or starts to break down, it's only a matter of minutes before NEO follows suit. So it's been an interesting trade.
Yeah, and that's a good poor man's way of playing Tesla, from either side.
I feel pretty poor when I play NEO. But back to the Snap thesis for a second. The reason I was originally starting to buy Snap, and I'm sticking with this, it has nothing to do with TikTok. It's anytime. So for our viewers out there that don't know who we are, in addition to this, our main thing is we run a food delivery app. We compete with the Uber Eats of the world on a smaller scale. We're in about 13 smaller sized towns. It's called Lodell. And in the past, anytime our company is either paying a company for their service or spending money on advertising, typically we'll look at the stock. We'll see how it performs. And those stocks have all been big winners of ours over the years. Started with Twilio, Fiverr, obviously Amazon with Amazon Web Services, Facebook, Google. These are all names that we've bought their stock because we've seen how much money our company spends on them in just the digital world for whatever it may be. And for the first time, we're starting to spend money on Snapchat like we've spent money in the past on Facebook and Instagram. We're wetting our feet right now, or wetting our beak, I should say, dipping our feet. And I don't know what's going to happen with it, but that's why I'm starting to invest in Snapchat, is because for the first time in the 15 years of our company, we are spending money on Snapchat. And I don't think we're the first ones doing that. I think young people coming into college and people in high school are using Snapchat more than other platforms. And it's only a matter of time before their valuations start to reflect that. So that's what I'm going to say about that.
The verdict's still out on whether or not that advertising works for small businesses. So
100%. And that's why my position's small, and it's nothing crazy. I'm still big on Facebook, and I'm starting.
I actually own a pretty good amount of Snapchat. I like them at this level, just off of what's going on in the world right now.
Yeah. I mean, and then, GameStop had their earnings this morning, big sell-off. I thought it was interesting that the founder of Chewy invested a lot of money in GameStop. I think he took on like a 10% stake. I think that got announced a week ago. I thought that was a little strange. And I wasn't sure.
When you look at his background, though, he's he wrote a piece early on in the pandemic about how he's all about being top heavy, where all of his money is in like 2 or 3 stocks. So he's a guy that, clearly that's something to think about. He's a smart dude. He must see something there. I mean, I'm a TVI guy. I think Activision Blizzard, even now, is a great entry point. It's come off a bit. But yeah, he clearly is seeing something with GameStop.
Yeah, he also parked a bunch of his money in Wells Fargo. And then there was one other company, I forget what it was. Apple. That was obviously the big one that makes sense in hindsight. The other two, down the road, we might look back and like, that guy was a genius. But for now, to me, I'm scratching it.
I mean, he's definitely a genius. He's a billionaire that started a company that is worth a fortune.
Well, no,
you mentioned Apple. Apple's up over $2.50 today now. The stock market, which was down, fairly significantly earlier, is now up.
I think today will be a good selling opportunity for some tech. I don't buy this. I think we're going to see more of a pullback in tech.
It's interesting because I was telling one of you guys that I ran into a portfolio manager at one of the big mutual funds in Denver. And he was telling me that the amount of money on the sidelines is so immense that he was not concerned about any sell-off.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to go into margin hard today. I love hearing that.
He actually thought that we would see new highs in all the usual characters.
Wow. Okay. Well,
that's only one guy's opinion.
Yeah, but it seems like that's one of those guys that's in the middle of the Mountain West. No one really knows about. He's probably a complete beast. I'm going to definitely think about that a bit.
I would not go off one guy. It's just an interesting.
Yeah, but that's a good feel. It depends on the kind of guy it is, but.
And to add to what he's saying, I think an interesting way to look at it, and if you really look at the names that were stronger yesterday, all right, so what we had leading up to the NASDAQ hitting 12,000 before it had the sell-off was a lot of these high flyer names that were almost, I don't want to say speculative, but names that people weren't quite sure of, like the Fastleys of the world, the Workhorses of the world. But after the sell-off, where you had this 10% or 8% correction in the NASDAQ, and then all of a sudden you had like the institutional money step in, they came into the big names. Like you see what happened with NVIDIA yesterday and with Microsoft yesterday, and these high, like the real big mega cap stocks that I think the big money's been watching, waiting for a moment to pounce. When you have a correction like we just did, I think that's when you maybe cross out. I keep bringing up Fastly as if they're not legit. They are. They're another company that our company spent a lot of money on. So I'm going to stop using them as an example. But my point is maybe this is a time where you don't need to get too creative to find a high flyer tech, and instead park your money in some of these names that are clearly just dominant companies that got caught up in the sell-off. If the market's going to rally at all new highs, I look at all these recent upgrades on Nvidia, and Mike, I know you sold them. Wondering, like, at what point are you looking to reload, because that stock sold off like crazy, and if big money's come into the market,
I'm not looking to reload with where it's at here in the chart. I mean, I'd be basically just selling myself short. It needs to come back down. Like, I could have gotten in at 480, 470. I didn't, but I'm not getting in here at 520. Like, even that's great that they have all these upgrades and everything. They're still overbought. So, like, that's not telling me, oh, let me run into this. There's way better value out there.
Well, yeah,
getting into an entry point.
This is the problem. The only time you really get good entry points on these stocks is when they act like they did 2 days ago.
I know, and I didn't buy Nvidia 2 days ago because I was thinking it would pull back a bit more. So
right, Mike, it's the hardest time to buy. Right.
And let me say this, Mike, you like the RSI now as an indicator. And if you're going to use the RSI, you can't find a better time to buy Nvidia, because the RSI is under 60, but it's still above 50. So it's
at 80 for the year, though, and I'm big on the 1 year. That's where I've been pretty spot on by following that with in and out.
The daily RSI for the year is well under that. Have you looked?
Nvidia?
Yeah.
No, it's at 79.
No, so you're looking at the weekly. I'm looking at the daily.
No, I look at the yearly, weekly, and that's been has been spot on.
You want to look for more accuracy. You want to look at the yearly, daily, not the weekly.
Yeah, and if you look at the yearly, daily, that thing has fallen off, and now.
Wait, where do I pull up? Because I have yearly, weekly. How do I set it to yearly, daily?
I don't know how to do it on the app. There's a setting.
Because that's a big deal. I got to switch that up.
Yeah, but bottom line is, if you look at that, and Nvidia is at such an interesting moment, because it's almost in that moment where there's strength, but it's like just the beginning of strength. Where if it, like I love when the RSI is above 50, but like just above 50, and maybe it's starting a new trend. But you can only
gotta figure out how to switch that, because I've been looking at this in a way clearly. If it's weekly, Dad, can you break that down too for a second for our viewers?
Well, weekly is usually, it goes back more than a year, depending on which charting service you use. But I mean, the way you want to look at a stock is to analyze what it looks like on a chart going back, the longest stretch. So you see the overview, and then you bring it in slowly to a 1 day chart.
Well, the 1 day I'm seeing here is at 69.
On what?
Nvidia.
Yeah, well, the RSI on a 1 day thing is not.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying, though. When the weekly versus daily for the year, what's the breakdown there?
Well, I think your weekly is more than a year chart. I could be wrong, but
bottom line, when you look at the weekly, you'll see the RSI will stay at these levels for months at times. And if you look at the daily, it just doesn't do that.
Yeah, because the weekly can go back 3 to 5 years or more, depending on.
I know. I don't know how it's set up like automatically like that, though.
But away from that, another stock I wanted to mention today, which we mention all the time, is Boeing. And what I want to say about Boeing is that I remember not too long ago when Boeing was just going on all cylinders. Every day there was positive news on Boeing. Another order, another type of contract,
just
on and on, that you said to yourself, this is the best stock in the world. There's never any bad news. That was the top right there. This stock has had nothing but negative news now for months. And I feel like it's bottoming out in that today there was more bad news. The stock's up right now. It's like bad news doesn't move it anymore. That's usually a good sign to start looking at a stock. And
what was the bad news today, Dad?
Supposedly there were some government sources that were giving them information on bidding on government contracts. So that could, who knows where that goes. It was a NASA contract. And apparently someone in the government was tipping them off to specific amounts they should bid. So who knows where that goes, but that was out. We had the 787 news the other day, which was negative. People moving their orders of new planes out, months and years. So I don't think the news can get any worse for Boeing.
And while we're on here, Trump just tweeted, Kim Jong-un is in good health. Never underestimate him. So that might be why the market's rallying. We just found out that our beloved North Korea leader is indeed still alive.
There's no way that guy's in good health. He sits around eating fried butter for a snack. So he's got gout in his 20s. I think he got it. That's not a sign of good health.
So, we're just kidding.
I think he's probably been dead for a long time, and Trump didn't even meet Jong-un. He met someone else when they did that whole thing. He has a lot of stunt doubles, that guy. Imagine being Jong-un's stunt double in Korea. It's probably in North Korea. It's probably one of the best gigs you can get.
Yeah. So the jobless claim, it looks like, just came out, and I think for this flash screen on what it said because I missed it, but I think it's a little worse than expected. But it just doesn't seem like the market really even reacts to that news anymore.
No, I think they've discounted all that. And
Boozy up to 440 here.
Yeah,
there were high flyers this morning.
I'm up huge on that one. There we go, Bob.
Watch Apple, guys. Apple's up $3 now. This stock is quietly making big moves. It got down to 110 and change.
What was the all-time high on Apple?
It got up to what? 138, somewhere around there. 137.98.
Pretty amped with Match. That's been looking nice since I got in there.
This is what happens, though, is like when you really think about the different major dips / corrections that have happened over the last few years, it dipped just enough to flush people out and then make them feel like idiots the next 48 hours when they watch.
And then they have FOMO, and they're like, "Oh crap, I got to jump back in." And then you have the algorithms take over, short sellers.
That's why you just never know short term. I mean, you could get whipped both directions.
Well, it's electronic trading, like in another way.
Well, it doesn't start with electronic trading.
But no, the algorithms take on a life of their own. That's part of why we see these quick corrections and bounce backs. A lot of this stuff isn't even human triggers.
No, that's true. But I think there's still a lot of money that moves from bonds to stocks and back and forth. And that kind of sets it up sometimes.
Well, let's wrap this up. It sounds like, just on final thoughts, Dad, you're going to be looking at Apple and Tesla to get a pulse on the market.
Yeah, I think those are the two main names as far as, where a lot of the activity is right now.
How about Beyond Meat?
I was just going to say
secondary, that would be afterwards. But we know the main names that are moving the market, and those are the ones you have to watch. And, it's Microsoft, Apple, it's Amazon, and it's probably NVIDIA. And, and Tesla. I would say those are some of the biggest ones that are moving it.
Nice. Well, this will be an interesting day. Every day is an interesting day in the market since March or February, I should say. And yeah, I'm still waiting for CNBC.
Actually September.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for CNBC. No, I said every day's been crazy since February. Yeah. I'm still waiting for CNBC to bring back their markets in turmoil show.
Yeah, that would be a good sign that we're going higher. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a lunch club hangout right now. Quick from one hangout to another.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Rolland Market Mashup.
Right.
See you guys later.